What's good, everybody? How y'all doing? It's your boy Anthony here yet again with another message. And today's message is we're just going to be talking about the mechanics of spiritual alchemy. And for those who don't know what alchemy is, it layman's terms, to keep it simple, it was really a practice of taking a base metal and transforming it into something else like gold. That's what it's really known for, and a lot of people just stay there in that realm, and that's understandable. But when it comes to spiritual alchemy, there is something different there, because there's a transmutation or a transformation that's taking place on the inside of the human being that a lot of individuals are unaware of and they never come into the knowledge of. So as I said, we're going to be talking about the mechanics of spiritual alchemy, and what that's going to look like is today I'm going to be defining alchemy in a modern faith context as the intentional transmutation of fear-based thoughts into truth-based actions. And I'm going to be reading from my screen because it's a nice amount, but we're going to try to keep it simple and we're going to try to keep it short so that people understand. And this message is going to tie into a message that I'm working on when it comes to money being people's God. But I'm not going to dive too deep into that because I want that to be fresh for when I drop it. And this will tie into it so that a lot of individuals can really recognize and look at their relationship with money versus their relationship with God and what that really looks like. But anyways, so today I'm going to start with the scripture of Romans 4:17, which says, call those things which do not exist as though they did. There's more to that verse as well, but just to keep it short, scripture says, call those things that are not as though they were. But this verse says it like this: call those things which did not exist as though they did. In that sense, you're basically calling something that technically is not as though it were. When Jesus literally cursed the fig tree because it was not producing within its time, and it was like, no one will ever eat from you. He called what was not as though it was, and then when they walked past that tree again, it was as he said it was. Now, what's interesting about that statement in itself is the word exist here refers to things that actually do exist, just in a state of being that has not been accessed yet in the physical. So this is what I typed: all things exist in a state that is attainable to all men. So what that means is, whatever it is that's not happening in your life that you do desire to happen in your life, it's there. The potential for it is there. It's somewhere sitting, waiting for you to attain it, for you to grasp it. So when you call forth those things that are not as though they were, you are literally pulling on a state or a place of being that does actually exist. It just basically, it can't be perceived by you yet because you're not in alignment, or whatever that means, on the same frequency. We could say all of these different things for where you can actually attain it in the physical realm or see it in the visible. And that right there in itself is interesting, because now you're pulling on a realm that does exist that you just don't yet have access to. But it is attainable to you once you start to move a certain way and once you start to access it through this transformation that's taking place in you. Scripture says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. So when you change how you think, when you change how you see the world, when you change your inner dialogue to yourself, when you change how you respond to certain situations, you will actually start to see your world change right before your eyes, whether it's good or bad, based off your way of thinking. What's going on inside of you? What type of alchemical process is happening within you spiritually? Now, the next thing, this is actually with that scriptures of Romans 4:17. This is actually where you see the correlation of Hebrews 11:1, which says, faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I find this interesting because faith and substance go hand in hand. What's beautiful about substance is the actual definition of the pure form of something, or essence by definition. So evidence being proof. If a person, let's keep it simple, let's go on the physical. If a person has evidence that so-and-so shot this person, that means they have proof. They can literally prove that, yes, we have evidence that this person shot this person. We can put this blame on them because we know based off the evidence. So scripture says the evidence of things not seen. Evidence being proof that is unseen by human perception. So that lets us know that there is evidence out in the world that some people have access to that others cannot see. What's beautiful is those people probably can't see it either, but they have some form of evidence that allows them to move in a realm, in a way, and in a reality that cannot be perceived by everyday individuals. And we all have access to it. That's why I'm talking about this today, so that individuals can know the difference in between faith-based knowing or fear-based thoughts, because they go hand in hand, and most people are getting results based off one or the other. And it's something that's happening within you that's causing everything that happens. Instead of going into faith, people are going directly into fear. And it's like it's a normal thing. And the question is, why has fear been so normalized? That's the question we really need to be asking. When we can talk about faith all day, we talk about it in church, we preach about it, we do all this stuff. But you only see faith being practiced in certain areas. But the people who preaching about it are not practicing it. And it's like they practice it on a small scale, but on a complete faith-based knowing, really, if you really walk in faith, you might look crazy to the rest of the world because you're moving on something that they cannot see. And faith is a real, tangible thing. It's just something that you have to be able to access. It's within you, whether it's as small as a mustard seed, whether it's as big as a mountain, whether you got a whole bucket full of faith. Everybody's amount of faith is different, but it's there to be accessed to literally change your reality into what you desire it to be. And now, is it going to happen exactly how you want it to? No, it's going to come about in the way that it's supposed to. But you do get the opportunity to play a part in it. So I'm going to move from that. Now, so with a substance, you can form or cause an outcome. Now, in this case, the substance is faith. Now, what is faith? Faith is the pure form of something that we don't quite seem to understand. And that's going back to my point. I don't think we put enough time into actually understanding what faith is, because it plays a very pivotal role. If everybody unconsciously goes directly to fear, anytime something happens, we should be trying to figure out what's that about. And then two, if everybody just naturally goes to fear, how do we learn how to change whatever's going on inside of us and shift it over to faith? For where now it's a unconscious thing, for where no matter what's happening, my faith is on 10 and it's like, boom. Instead of me saying, oh man, that's gonna happen, it's just all gonna get worse, I can be like, well, this is happening right now. This is what I know to be true. All the rest of the stuff that tried to pop up in my mind, I don't really know if that's true or not. So I'm gonna just believe for the best. This is all gonna work out for me. It's all gonna be all right. I don't know what's happening right now, but it's happening for me. I might not see it right now, but whatever it is, it's going to be a breakthrough. It's going to be a level up. It's going to be something that's for my good, rather than going with fear and instantly you're literally feeding into everything that could go wrong. And most people do it naturally. And this actually goes into my next point, which is simply because faith goes hand in hand with fear. Neither one is different. The majority of people on the earth identify with fear-based thinking. Somebody's going to watch this, and if you get into the video far enough, you're going to think about a situation that just probably popped up not too long ago, and your instant response was fear. Now, why is that? Ask yourself, why is that? Because a lot of people aren't asking that question. Now, I say that because it's become so normalized through strategic tactics that most don't realize that it's a pattern of the world that's actually mentioned in Romans chapter 12, verse 2. Scripture tells us not to be conformed to the world. In some versions, it says to the patterns of the world. One of the patterns is fear. And most people unconsciously eat fear up so much, whether it's through social media, whether it's through their job, whether it's through the news, whether it's through their family, their friends, whether it's even through the church. Let's be real. The church is very fear-based. I'm going to keep it a buck. And I find that very interesting too, that we're always like the way that we preach in such a way, there's some love in there sometimes. There's some grace in there sometimes, but a lot of it is fear. And scripture literally says verbatim the word do not fear over between 40 and 175 times. Why does scripture keep saying do not fear not? Why? That's interesting that that phrase pops up almost more than anything else in scripture, but yet the main thing the human race does is fear. And that's an alchemical process that's taking place within you. And a lot of people don't know that they're literally shifting their reality based off of the fear that they are feeding into, because faith and fear go hand in hand. They are no different. There's nothing different about them. They're just literally two opposite ends of the spectrum, or literally different in degree. They both operate the same way. This is what I wrote down for it, because I can't say it verbatim. Basically, both produce results from a place of assumption or knowing, with no assurance of a definite outcome that has not yet taken place from the current moment. They both are the same ruling principle. It's like light and dark. They're no different. They're literally the same thing, just different in degree. So we perceive a difference, not realizing, no, they're the same thing. It's just which one are you going to implement? Scripture also says this. I know I'm getting a little biblical. I have to, because I still read the Bible. I read a lot of stuff because there's things that we need to know. Whether you're a Christian, whether you're a Muslim, whether you agnostic, you're atheist, I don't give a flying flip. There's things that we as the human race need to know, especially when it comes to what's going on within us, because there are things that's going on within you, outside of you, and beyond you that a lot of people don't even perceive. And fear is one of the biggest ones. And that in itself is spiritual, because we are told we are really supposed to allow our higher thoughts to rule over our lower thoughts, because there's no difference in them either. Besides the fact of they all work together once you get past the division, the illusion of the division that's happening within you. If you have a lower thought, there should be some type of process that you can go through to get away from that lower thought and come back up to the higher. That in itself is a simple alchemical process that's taking place in your thought, in your mental, even with your emotions. If you get angry, figure out why you're angry, figure out what bothers you, and now acknowledge the anger, acknowledge the sadness, acknowledge the doubt, acknowledge the fear, acknowledge the jealousy, acknowledge the envy, and then go from there and realize, hold up, I don't have to stay here with this. I can acknowledge this and not become it. I can sit with it, watch it, even communicate with it, and not identify with it. That right there in itself is a spiritual alchemical process that can take place in your mind, your will, and your emotions on a day-to-day basis. Now that's a process, because you're putting yourself in a position to break something that has been happening unconsciously for years. And because now you have programmed yourself to instantly go to fear-based thinking to undo that, it's going to be a process. There's going to be a war going on, because whatever you solidify through that program is going to want to fight to stay alive, because that's how you have operated for years. And now you're sending new signals saying we're changing this, and the new is trying to override the old, and there's a war going on until the new continuously bombard the old, beat it down, freaking bury it, reconcile with it, then bury it, so that you can now step into the new, which is the new program, which is this process of you taking your lower thoughts and transforming them into higher thoughts. You taking your lower emotions, moving through them and coming up into the higher. You taking that which you thought was a bad thing and turning it into a good thing. It's the same with us becoming like Christ. It's us overcoming our lower natures, our lower urges, our lower desires, and literally stepping into who we are to be. And that is sons and daughters of God. And then in other words, God. Anybody want to argue with that? Take that up with the Lord. But you are here not to judge one another. You are not here to beat one another. You're not here to compete with one another. Each one of us are here for a purpose, to literally remember that we are sons and daughters of God and also one with God. And you are having a human experience. I don't care what religion you practice. I don't care what spiritual walk you're on. I don't care what you think you know. Until you get to know you, you know nothing. I can even claim that I know nothing. The only thing that I know 100% is that one day this body is going to die. What happens after? Hey, I have speculations, I have thoughts, I have assurances. But other than that, I do know that at one point I was not, and now I am. And if I am now and I was not then, that means it can all happen again. And I know it might sound like I'm talking in riddles. No, at one point I was not. And at another point I was. So somewhere in me, I know that even before I came into this world, I existed. Who did I exist with? God. Who did I exist with? The creator of all things. Who did I exist with? The one that we cannot fully know. Because we can't even fathom the completeness in the multitude of who God really is. Even to call him God, that is so mundane because he's more than that. But with that being said, guys, there is something going on within you that needs to be recognized and that needs to be realized so that you can step away from fear-based thinking into faith-led actions. And the only way you can do that is if you realize that you are literally practicing with the same thing, just in a different way. Learn how to turn your fear into faith because they're both the same thing. It's just like scripture says, one can put 1,000 to flight. Two can put 10,000 to flight. When you access fear, when you agree with fear, guess who starts to move? Y'all thinking demons moving? Nah, fam, they one in the same. Angels and demons are one in the same too. They are one in the same, opposite ends of the spectrum, different in degree. Bro, when you access fear, when you agree with fear, angels move on your behalf and they bring everything that's in agreement with that fear. But when you move on faith, angels move on your behalf and they bring more things that's in agreement with faith. I hope that makes sense for somebody. Because whatever you agree with, that's what you're going to get. But the process starts within you. And where it really starts is up here. How are you thinking? How are you viewing your life? How are you viewing your circumstances? What is your response when you think that something negative happens? Do you roll with the negativity or do you say, hey, I see you. I'm not in agreement with that. Yes, I see that you're present, so I'm not going to act like that. Yes, you're there. So why did this pop up and what are you trying to alert me to? And is this alert valid or is this just a limiting fear-based belief that I need to acknowledge and change and transform into something that's based on faith? Faith being a knowing, faith being belief, whatever you want to call it. Some people think faith is belief. Belief can be shaken. Beliefs can be changed. But I call faith a form of knowing. Because when you really know, you move with a level of certainty that individuals don't understand, that they can't perceive. Because your faith, you moving on the substance of something that is actually not perceivable by everybody else, but tangible to you. But that's all I have to say. I got some more topics that I'm going to be hitting on. This is just the first part. And each one is going to be tied into the message about money. And really, this goes hand in hand because you'll be surprised how fear comes up instantly when money gets involved, whether your money's off, whether you don't have the money to pay the bill, you got $0 in your bank account. Let's be real. Fear comes up real quick when it comes to money because a lot of people are more connected to money than they think or than they want to actually realize or acknowledge. I'll tell you straight up. 2 weeks ago, I walked out the whole week. I went with $7 in my bank account. Something happened for where I spent it. And then the next week, I went the whole week with $2 in my bank account. But I had to stand on something that God told me. I had to continuously check a personal word that God gave me and literally check the lower thoughts that I was having or the worries that tried to come up. So I had to take the higher thing, which was the personal word that God gave me, to literally overrule any of my fears that were trying to come up. And they're not even my fears. Fear that tried to come up within me because of what could happen when really I got food in the refrigerator. I got gas in my car. All the bills are paid. I got a place to lay my head. So where's this fear coming from? Because it's really not real. Everything that I need is taken care of. So where is this fear coming from? And when I'm talking about this from a place of me looking at myself and dealing with the spiritual alchemy that's going on within me on a day-to-day basis, and also just from these different books, bro. You want to know about alchemy? This goes hand in hand with quantum physics, the Kabbalion. It talks about all the laws of literally the universal laws that really man can't really undo them, but each principle or law can overcome or supersede the next one based off the type of law that it is. So the same thing, scripture tells us to think about those things that are above. Think about things that are pure, that are right, that are lovely, that are all these things that are of a high place. Most people are always thinking about things that are down here. They're always thinking about death. They're always thinking about carnal things. They're always thinking about doubt. They're always thinking about envy. They're always thinking about lack. Those are not the things that are above. Those are the things that are below. And fear dwells with those things. But faith dwells with those things that are above. And it's going to take some work when it comes to you rewiring your brain and your internal system, your spiritual alchemy, which is going on within you. It's going to take some work to literally learn how to consciously transform your thinking from fear to faith, straight up. But y'all, that's all I got to say. Until next time, hopefully this helps somebody. I don't know who's on what journey. I don't know what the Lord has been talking to you about. But whatever journeys you're on, keep walking it out. Don't be afraid of what everybody else is talking about. Like I said, scripture says over 40 to 175 times, verbatim, do not fear. Why does that keep popping up? But it seems like this whole world in almost every sector operates off fear. Y'all better start asking that question. Even when you know you're supposed to be doing something or you're supposed to be moving a certain way that don't make sense to everybody else, and fear tries to arise, why is it coming up? Is it coming to stop you? Is it coming to save you? Or is it keeping you away from exactly what you're supposed to be doing? That's all I have to say. Y'all have a great and blessed day. Until next time, like this video, subscribe, share, do whatever you want to. If you don't want to, that's cool. But if you feel like this could help somebody, send it out. But until next time, peace out.